We are live, ladies and germs. Tonight is a very special night because this is the first time that the fuel is going to be broadcast live on my YouTube channel. Because before I had always done pre-recorded reviews, but with me going to live streaming for my third year of my YouTube channel's existence, figured, why the hell not? Let's, as Bill O'Reilly once said, we'll do it live! Fuck it! But I also sent a bit of an invite to the WRP guys, if any of them want to jump in and be co-coms for tonight's review of the Daytona 500 from last night, which I wish I would have done. I wish I would have done this review last night, but of course it ran late because of course it did. So you're getting this review right here, right now. But before we get into all of that, let's get an intro going, and it's a brand new intro for season 3 of The Fuel. Whoops, wrong one. Oh, shit. Give me 1 second. There we go. God, this fucking webcam is a real pain in my ass. As is this damn cat of mine. Come on, camera. Shit. Come on. God. Technical difficulties! Quit rubbing up against the damn microphone, cat. Come on. Come on. Come on. Kitty. Alright, so, for the first time ever, welcome into your live NASCAR review here on The Fuel. This is my 71st episode. Yep, my 71st episode is the 2021 Daytona 500. And doing it here on Monday night, February the 15th, 2021. I don't know if you can hear it outside, but it is currently sleeting here in Central Ohio. We're supposed to get like 6 to 8 inches of snow on top of all the ice that we're getting right now. So, yeah, the weather outside kind of sucks ass. But we're here for the first race of the 2021 season after a bit of a vacation from this show. We're back going full steam ahead for what, well, might as well say it, probably one of the most anticipated seasons in recent NASCAR history. But before we get into anything about the race or anything of that nature, before we get into the review like hardcore, because I do have my notes as per the usual. Because when you do reviews, you're supposed to take notes. Duh. But let me just get this out of the way right at the beginning of the review. This fucking Daytona 500 sucked ass. You know, and I sat there and I really tried to give this race a chance, you know, when we were sitting there for that long ass 6-hour rain delay. You know, just hoping that the race would get back going at some point. And, you know, to NASCAR's credit, they did get the race back going again, but let me tell you something. It was not worth the wait. It was not worth the wait. One damn second. This race was fucking garbage. I mean, what else can I say? You know, I mean, look at the title of this review, because I always, you know, I always title all of my reviews with some kind of snarky name. This one's called All Aboard the Snooze Train. And the reason for that is about, I would say 80% of this race was the field running in one giant ass conga line. Like, it was basically a high-speed parade all the way up to the last fucking lap of the race. And I'm just sitting there watching this race and I'm going, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what is this shit? You know, it's the Daytona 500. I mean, I thought, you know, people would be, you know, when it got to stage 3, I figured, you know, that would be when the action would ramp up, you know, and, you know, we would get this crazy 2 and 3 wide racing, you know, and all that other shit. But we didn't get it. And there was one asshole on Twitter that I guess was getting irritated with all of the damn, I guess, complaints about, you know, people complaining about how the race was absolute fucking garbage, which it was. Cat, what are you doing? Middle of a live review, and this cat, you know, wants attention. Let me see here. Profile. There was someone who replied. His name is I'm not going to say his name because it's not worth giving him the attention. But he basically said everybody is bitching about Daytona. If they had rode around single file at the wall, you would have complained. If the whole field wrecked, you would have complained. They didn't throw the yellow. If the grass turned blue and the sky turned green, just enjoy the race. And I replied to him, kind of hard to enjoy the race when it's nothing but a single file parade. You know, and it's very true. Because, I mean, holy shit. Alright, give me 1 second here. Okay, I was just seeing if, I was getting a little bit of, cam delay. But, I guess not. I mean, it's showing it on Elgato, like it's a little bit behind, but seems to be doing fine as far as on YouTube, so I guess we're good on that front. But yeah, this race was absolute fucking ass hammers. One of the worst Daytona 500s I've ever watched. You know, and that includes the, you know, the 2013 Daytona 500, the 2000 Daytona 500. Like, this was god awful. A snooze inducer, to say the least. And I mean, it was just not a good race. Not a good race whatsoever to start the season. And it's so disappointing because with 2021 perhaps being the most anticipated season in a long time due to all the schedule changes that happened, you know, the fact that we started out with such a giant Cleveland steamer right in our face, I mean, it sucks. because, you know, the Daytona 500 is supposed to be the biggest race of the year, and it starts out being one of the biggest bore fests of the year. Not exactly sure that's what you want for your crown jewel race. You know? Maybe it's just me. But, with that all out of the way, and I gotta remind myself, I gotta lower the volume on the frickin' intro. Because I was listening to it and I was like, damn, that's a little bit loud. So I might have to lower the volume a little bit more on it. But, check some things here. It doesn't look like anybody's online. Oh well. Oh, so with that in mind, give me 1 second here. Okay, does it save? Yep, cool. I can just put the logo right on top. As I usually do with my pre-recorded videos, but since I can edit shit on the fly here, I can just put it right in, and basically it means that we're ready to review the Daytona 500, or whatever race it may be. A couple other changes though. I am going to be dropping the star of the race and reject of the race and all that other shit. Let's kind of streamline this a little bit. But I am keeping the ratings, though. So, there you go. I am still going to continue to rate these races how I usually do it. So, and I'm going to tell you right now, this race is not going to get a good score because this race was ass. I mean, that's just all there is to it. It was just ass. I mean, literally. Nothing of interest, almost nothing of interest happened in this race. I mean, I can think of 3 positive things that came out of this race. Somehow, despite the fact that, you know, a large majority of this race was boring as hell, you know, running around single file, we somehow got 11 pure lead changes and 22 overall lead changes. And I'm just thinking to myself, how the fuck does that happen? In a race like this where it was basically a choo-choo train for 80% of the time. Like, how the hell does that happen? Well, restarts have a little bit to do with it. And, you know, a little bit of shuffling around because they do start 2 by 2. But once they start getting strung out and the outside line starts basically, you know, forming and just pushing forward, that's when everybody just basically got in a line and just sat there and sat there and sat there and sat there. I mean, the first stage has a lot to talk about. Stages 2 and 3, almost nothing up until the end. But that's the second point of interest that, you know, is a positive. The stage finishes were actually really good. Now, did it make up for how god-awful the racing was beforehand? No. But at least the stage finishes were interesting to some degree. And then, of course, we have the third point of interest that's a positive. A WTF winner, which we're going to be getting to in a little bit. Because, what the fuck? In a good way, though. But let's go ahead and get into this review proper. The 63rd running of the Daytona 500, which as I said was extremely disappointing. Before this race even began, 10 cars had to drop to the rear of the field for various reasons, either due to crashes from the duels, or various mechanical issues or this, that, and the other. So drivers that had to go to backup cars were Brad Keselowski, Chase Briscoe, Kaz Grala, William Byron, Anthony Alfredo, Cole Custer, and Ross Chastain. Eric Jones had to go to the rear of the field due to an engine change. Martin Truex Jr. had to go to the rear of the field due to an oil cooler change. And then for a double tech failure, Bubba Wallace, who also had his car chief ejected from the event. And I also wrote down, rain may be a factor for this race. Did it ever? So, stage 1, 65 laps. Stage 2 was also 65 laps, with stage 3 being 70 laps. So, they kind of evened it out a little bit more, because in the past it was 60, 60, and then 80. So, I guess for fuel reasons, they lengthened the first and second stages and shortened stage 3 a little bit, which is fine. Alex Bowman, of course, won the pole for this race, which was another Hendrick Motorsports pole. I wonder how many years in a row they've won the frickin' pole for the Daytona 500. Still yet to capitalize on it, though, in recent years. But Alex Bowman leads the field to the green. He leads lap 1. We have our first pure lead change when Kevin Harvick takes the lead away on lap 2. And then we have our first caution on lap 4 when Derek Cope loses a tire in turns 3 and 4 and creams the wall, which ends his day. Apparently, he had contact with Bubba Wallace. There was some saying it was before the green flag for some reason, which I don't know how the hell that happens. But, yeah, let's be completely honest here. Derek Cope shouldn't have even been in this race to begin with. I mean, the dude's 62 years old. He hasn't even been in a cup race in a decade and a half. And the car he was in, which is a Rick Ware Racing car, was slower than molasses. And yet, because Rick Ware Racing has dangers of doing a live review, is that, shit like this can happen. But as I said, Rick Ware Racing has... Seriously? Give me 1 second. All right, I apologize for that. My mother called me, and told me that we are under a level 2 snow emergency now, which I expected that to happen because I don't know if you can hear it on the windows, but it is pretty much snow, freezing rain, and just all kinds of crazy nonsense. So yeah, fun times. As I was trying to say before, so Rickware Racing, they basically got in because they have charters for all their teams, which I'm going to be completely honest, I don't know how the fuck they are able to, fund all their teams. I mean, I think they have like 3 cars full time in the Cup Series, and they're slow as shit. So, where are they getting their money from? Like, I don't understand it. And Rickware Racing is expanding into IndyCar this year, partnering with Dale Coyne Racing to field 2 entries. Like, where are they getting this money? But it seems like they're not doing a whole hell of a lot with it because the Rickware Racing cars are fucking garbage. But yet they got into the race while faster cars had to go home because of this dumbass charter system. And, to be completely honest, Derek Cope didn't, deserve to be in this race and shouldn't have been in this race. I mean, his years have long past him. He hadn't been in a Cup car in a decade and a half, so it's like, what the fuck was going on here? But, it is what it is at this point. But Harvick leads on the restart. Logano pushes Newman up to challenge Harvick for the lead. But Harvick on the inside line looks strong early on. And then, second caution on lap 15 was the big one. Down the backstretch, Christopher Bell gets a bump from Kyle Busch. He moves forward and bump drafts Eric Almirola, but kind of did it at an angle, which actually turned the 10 car and sent him into Alex Bowman, and away they went. 16 cars were involved in this accident. Truex, Almirola, Jamie McMurray, Alex Bowman, Matt DiBenedetto, Tyler Reddick, Eric Jones, Chris Buescher, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Ryan Newman, Christopher Bell, Kurt Busch, David Reagan, Anthony Alfredo, and Daniel Suarez. And I think like 10 of these 16 cars actually ended up out of the race from this wreck, which really sucks. And what sucked even harder was the fact that they had to bring the cars down pit road for a red flag due to lightning. Yep, we had a lightning delay, and then rain moved over the track, and it went away, then came back, then went away, then came back, then went away, came back. I mean, it was really looking like this was going to be a Monday matinee once again for the Daytona 500. And I was like, man, what a shitty start to this race. And it was. And then after hours and hours of waiting, they finally got back underway. It was a 5-hour, 40-minute red flag officially. That's a long-ass wait. So this race was going to go late into the night. Everybody comes in for service. And Chase Elliott leads on the restart, finally. Dillon moves to the lead from the outside, which was a nice move. We had our second pure lead change on lap 31 when Cole Custer took over the lead. But then we had our third pure lead change to the next lap when Denny Hamlin started showing his strength early on and took the lead for himself. Outside line was starting to show strength. Byron loses pieces off the rear of his car. And this brings up another point of contention that I really question NASCAR's wisdom on. The damaged vehicle policy. It's a fucking failure. I mean, initially when they came out with it a couple years ago, I was initially on board with it because, I figured, damaged cars, like severely damaged cars where the crew members would, take pieces and shit onto the cars, that would be a thing of the past, and you would have to really get your car fixed in order to, get back out on there on the racetrack without, presenting a hazard to everybody. But that has not really worked because William Byron had pieces flying from the rear of his race car, nearly lost his bumper cover, and they can't replace that. So they would have had to call it a race at that point if that would have fallen off. Thankfully it didn't. They actually black flagged him so they could fix that. He actually ended up 7 laps down when it was all said and done. The choo-choo train develops, and the third caution would come out on lap 38 as collateral damage from William Byron's debris being flung everywhere would cause Quinn Half to cut down a tire after running over some debris from Byron's car. He hits the outside wall. Chase Briscoe spins to avoid hitting the 00. Unfortunately, this flat spots his tires, and his right front actually came apart. And when the right front tire, when any of these tires come apart, after they've been flat spotted, they basically unwind and it turns into like a high-speed whip and it beats the car to death. And that's basically what happened with Chase Briscoe. It completely tore his right front to shreds, and it pretty much ruined the rest of his race. But about Quinn Half and what happened here. Now, for those of you who have watched my reviews in the past, I have been very critical of Quinn Half, and rightfully so. I mean, who could forget what happened at Texas last year when he tried to pit from the middle of the fucking racetrack, and I slammed him hard for that one. But in this case, he didn't do anything wrong here. I mean, this was just terrible luck on his part. He was actually running pretty decently. I mean, I think he was in the top 25 at this point, which is a decent run for him. And for Starcom Racing. And, they have their decent run ruined because, the 24 team decided, oh, well, let's just tape, parts and pieces onto, the car, let's just call it a day. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. I mean, this taping, just using, duct tape, nothing a little duct tape can't fix. Shut the fuck up. I mean, that's some bullshit, If you're going to fix the car, do it fucking right. Don't be, using duct tape, to tape pieces on and all this other bullshit. Because at the speeds that they're running, nearly 200 miles an hour all the way around, some of that shit's going to fly off and present a hazard on the racetrack, and that's exactly what happened here. And in fact, NASCAR just shows, how fucking tone deaf they are once again, because Chase Briscoe's wife actually tweeted, why was there not a caution thrown for the debris? And NASCAR's response was, the debris wasn't in the racing line. Fuck off. Seriously, NASCAR? The debris was not in the racing line. Well, evidently it was, because Quinn Half ended up running over it and cutting a tire down and ending his race. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. I swear to God, NASCAR wouldn't know their own ass from a hole in the ground. I mean, year after year, it just continues to boggle my mind how fucking stupid the officiating is in this fucking company. I mean, Jesus H. Christ, man. The officiating is absolutely mediocre, but then again, with this company, mediocrity is what you should expect. Anywho, moving on. So I knocked my microphone down. I've said my piece about that, so let's move on. Hamlin leads on the restart. Kez gets a push to the front, but Bubba Wallace, who was pushing him, basically jumps to the outside to try to challenge for the lead himself, but never actually gets there. And he gets dropped, kicked back a little bit, and then the choo-choo train forms once again. Woo, woo! Yeah, fun times. Chase tries to make some runs on the bottom when he's at the back of the line, but nothing works because it never does. Several forwards try to get runs, but no dice there. Kyle Busch gets shuffled out by Ryan Preece, who made a move, but Denny Hamlin was prepared, ready for it, and held everybody at bay to win stage 1. This stage was poop. The finish was nice, but the rest of the stage, not so much, especially with that 6-hour rain delay. But Hamlin was going for 3 consecutive Daytona 500s, which had never happened before, and early on here, he was looking good. Everyone comes in for service, and Hamlin wins the race off pit road, so he will lead the start of stage number 2, which is 65 laps as well. The Penske Brigade arrives with Cindric and his NASCAR Cup Series debut, the defending Xfinity Series champion, leading after the restart. Well, leading the first lap after the restart, which does not count towards a pure lead change. If you go back to my first episode of the fuel, you'll basically see the explanation of what's a pure lead change and what's not, basically. But we get our 4th and 5th pure lead changes in back-to-back laps. Denny Hamlin takes the lead from Cindric on lap 74. And then Christopher Bell takes the lead on lap 75. Christopher Bell actually had a pretty good car in this race. There was a bit of fog lingering in the air because, of course, when you have rain all frickin' day, it goes into the night, and then you have the jet dryers out there trying to dry everything up. Some fog's going to develop, and it was a bit of a concern for the spotters being able to see the cars down the backstretch. And I wrote down choo-choo because the train formed again. Yay. Green flag pit stops begin on lap 105 with the Penske boys coming in. The JGR cars come in from the lead on lap 107, and then a lot of the Chevy teams came in together on lap 109. Kyle Larson cycles out with the lead with teammate Elliott behind him, but they get quickly run down by Denny Hamlin for a 6th pure lead change of the day on lap 111. Then we have our 4th caution on lap 112. Christopher Bell loses a left rear tire and spins in turn 2. He had only changed right side tires on his pit stop, and he had a left rear go down. That's just bad luck. Ricky Stenhouse, Kyle Larson, and Jamie McMurray are also involved, as well as Corey LaJoie and Kaz Grala. As my phone continues to go off. Yes, I know I have a low battery. So Hamlin leads on the restart as Kaz Grala comes to pit road with a wheel bearing going up in flames, and it basically cooked the brakes in the rear of that car. I mean, the wheel hub was basically on fire. They were trying to, spray it with fire extinguisher, and he was trying to roll back around, but every time it just kept catching on fire, and eventually it just cooked the brakes, and that was the end of his day. Logano leads the lap after the restart, but Harvick goes 3 wide with the 11 and 22 to grab the lead himself. That's our 7th pure lead change on lap 119. So this was actually some pretty good racing here in the middle of stage 2. And it's like, man, maybe it's starting to pick up a little bit. We had our 8th pure lead change on lap 120 with Denny Hamlin retaking the lead. 2 by 2 for the lead at the end of the stage. And then coming to the last lap of stage 2, Bubba Wallace actually took the lead for himself. But then Denny Hamlin, with a nice run on him, slingshots around his, his new employee, I guess you could say, with his new team 2311 with Michael Jordan. A lot of Michaels in this sport now. For our 10th pure lead change of the day on lap 130, and Denny Hamlin wins stage number 2, outrunning Kevin Harvick and Bubba Wallace. So, again, boring ass stage, but the finish was good. Common theme. So some drivers make pit stops, and then we get to the 3rd and final stage of this race, which was 70 laps. And let me show you something. This was a 70 lap stage, the longest stage. If you don't, look at how much the notes are. From right there to right there. Because pretty much this entire stage was a parade. Like, you would think that, with this being the 3rd and final stage of the Daytona 500, You know, you would expect these guys to be a little more animated, get a little more action going, but no, it feels like they left their balls at home. You know, and that might be insulting to drivers who run 200 miles an hour, but I mean, when you're not making any moves whatsoever and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, what else am I supposed to say? So Austin Dillon leads the start of stage 3. Hamlin blows by him on the outside to reclaim the lead, so we have a choo-choo train yet again. And then green flag pit stops begin en masse on lap 170. Bear in mind that stage 3 started, I think, on lap 137. So now we're at lap 170. I mean, that just shows you how very little happened at the beginning of this stage. Unbelievable. The Toyotas come in with 28 laps to go, but this would actually ultimately be their undoing, and in particular Denny Hamlin's undoing, because his team actually had too good of a pit stop and actually ended up way in front of everybody else with no drafting help, and the line basically just blew right by him, and he was at the very end of that line with no drafting help. So his shot at a third straight Daytona 500 was pretty much a smoking, heaping pile of shit at that point. We had our 11th and final pure lead change when Joey Logano took over the lead on lap 175. And that was basically all there was to talk about, because everybody stayed in a line all the way to the white flag lap. From lap 175 all the way to the white flag lap, nothing of interest happened. It was just one giant coggle line of cars. And then finally, coming to the white flag, Brad Keselowski finally tries to make a move. And then going down the back stretch, Keselowski actually gets a nice push from Michael McDowell, who had worked his way up to third. But then we get our 5th and final caution on the final lap of the race. Michael McDowell bumps Keselowski, gives him a nice bump draft. And it's kind of hard to tell what actually happened because of the different angles. But it looked like Keselowski tried to make a move on Logano, and Logano tried to block, and they both kind of misjudged it, and both ended up spinning each other out. Kez went one way, Logano went the other. And as the seas parted, Michael McDowell shot out into the lead with Chase Elliott right behind him, and he had also Kyle Larson and a couple others. And then the rest of the field behind them just pounded each other. Keselowski, I think, ended up in the catch fence. His car was completely demolished. Kyle Busch took several hard shots, including a hard driver's side shot from Austin Cindric, but he was able to climb out of his car, and hopefully there are no serious injuries to report from there. But yeah, there was a last lap crash, you know, because I mean, we saw this exact same thing in the 2013 Daytona 500, where they ran around in a choo-choo train for the entire race. Then when they tried to make a move, boom, destruction. I mean, this waiting until the last lap nonsense needs to stop. Because, I mean, I on the one hand, I understand why they do it, but when you do it for pretty much 80% of the race and for pretty much the entirety of stage 3, leading all the way up to the white flag, presented by Credit One Bank, that's fucking nonsense. I mean, at that point, you're just nothing but a bunch of fucking pussies. Like, and I'm not gonna waste 10 hours of my fucking life, you know, waiting, you know, for this race to get going after a long ass rain delay, after a long ass off season, and then this fucking bullshit is what we got for this race. So, the cars that were involved in this wreck: Brad Keselowski, excuse me, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, and Ross Chastain. Although Chastain was able to keep going and finish 7th, which is not bad. But then we get to the big surprise of this race. Michael McDowell was declared the winner of the Daytona 500, and I was like, what? 358 starts. 14 years in the Cup Series. A journeyman driver. Tall drink of water he is. But Michael McDowell is now a Daytona 500 champion. Which is great for him because, one, he's going to be known for something other than that qualifying crash at Texas all those years ago. And two, he is the 8th driver to score his debut victory in the Daytona 500. Well, his maiden victory, I guess you could say. And this was a long time coming for him. I mean, he has the patience of Job, to be able to, continue a journeyman career, bouncing around from team to team, at times, driving for backmarker teams. Winds up at Bob Jenkins, Front Row Motorsports. And Front Row Motorsports has proven that they can be contenders at super speedway races in the past. I mean, I believe it was David Reagan who won at Talladega a few years ago. In fact, they actually had a 1-2 finish with David Reagan and David Gilliland when David Gilliland was driving for him. So, Michael McDowell, Daytona 500 champion, definitely one of the biggest upsets in recent memory. And it kind of continues a trend of upset victories in Daytona 500s with the year ending in 1. In 2001, of course, this was the 20th anniversary of Dale Earnhardt's untimely passing. Michael Waltrip won after in his 463rd attempt. He waited longer than Michael McDowell did. And Michael Waltrip got the job done in his 463rd start in 2001. And then 10 years later, you have a young guy by the name of Trevor Bayne who wins the Daytona 500 in just his 2nd Cup start. He has not won since, and he has not been in a Cup Series ride in a long time, I think due to his multiple sclerosis diagnosis from a couple of years ago. Haven't really seen hide nor hair of Trevor Bayne since, but I mean, he still has that Daytona 500 trophy on his mantle, so there is that. But yeah, for sure, Michael McDowell, he's gonna cherish this one for a long ass time. It may be his lone Cup Series victory, but what a fucking victory to have as your lone series victory is the Daytona 500. There are a lot of drivers, cherished Hall of Fame drivers who have never won the Daytona 500. I mean, that just goes to show you how hard it is to win this race. And Michael McDowell, through hellfire and brimstone, literally, prevailed, and he's going to get to cherish it for the rest of his career and the rest of his life. So, congratulations to Michael McDowell. Enjoy this one. And I have a feeling he's going to for a long time to come. But that does not make up for how shit-tastic this race was. Like, this was one of the worst Daytona 500s in recent memory. It definitely invoked it definitely invoked memories of the 2013 Daytona 500. It had a lot of similar feelings. Very similar ending, very similar mid-race run. It was, I mean, this was god-awful. It was a god-awful race with a few points of interest, but not very many. What a shit-tastic way to begin the 2021 season. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the point standings and finishing order. So there's gonna be a way to cropping mode, bring to the front. There we go. Now we'll put that behind for right now. I'm doing some adjustments to the point standings and stuff like that. Alright, so let's put that over here, actually. That'll probably work. Save scenes. Alright, there we go. That's cool. All right, so top 10 results for the Daytona 500. Michael McDowell, of course, with the win, led only one lap, and it was the most important one, the last one. Chase Elliott ends up second, so that's yet another crown jewel that managed to sneak away from him. Austin Dillon ends up third, led 7 laps. Kevin Harvick in fourth, led 17 laps. Denny Hamlin, quest for the three-peat comes up short, so that's a accomplishment that continues to elude the best in NASCAR, but he did still come home with the top 5, led 98 laps on the day. Ryan Preece comes home in 6th. Ross Chastain, who was involved in a couple of incidents, still ended up 7th. Jamie McMurray, who was involved in the first incident of the day, well, not the first incident, the first big one of the day, he still came home with a top 10. Corey LaJoie, that's both of the Spire Motorsports cars, by the way, the 7 and the 77, ending up 8th and 9th. So good runs for those cars. And then Kyle Larson, he ended up 10th. He was also in the last lap shenanigans, actually spun out, but still ends up with a top 10 finish. So good run by him. All right, so point standings, which I cropped out a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that'll work. So, point standings. Due to the fact that the duels now award points to the top 10, Austin Dillon is the point leader with 58 points. Denny Hamlin in second with 52. You have Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Michael McDowell in the top 5. So even though he won the race, he's still 5th in points overall because of the points that were awarded in the duels. But due to his win, he is locked into the playoff, which is going to be good for Front Row Motorsports because that guarantees them at least the top 16 in the overall point standings. And since they're going to be finishing that high in the point standings at the very least, that's going to give them more money. You know, because of the point fund. The top 25 teams, I believe, earn point fund money. And that 34 team is much like they did, I believe, in 2016 with Chris Buescher behind the wheel of the 34 car. That was a fog-shortened race at Pocono where they took advantage of it. They were never a factor in the playoff, but they still ended up top 16 in the points. And it looks like that's going to be the case for Michael McDowell and the 34 team again this year. Ryan Preece in the 37 car, they're still running the full season. They just don't have well, they're going to try to run they might try to run the full season, but they don't have sponsorship for the whole season. But they still had a pretty decent run, and they're 6th in the point standings. So, I mean, there's got to be some sponsors out there that they can pull together, to try to run the full season, despite the fact that they don't have a charter. Then you have Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, who's 8th in the point standings right now. You have Joey Logano and Christopher Bell. Bubba Wallace actually ended up a lap down because he had a loose wheel late in the run, and he actually ended up a lap down. So it's a tough break for him. Logano and Christopher Bell round out the top 10, and then the rest of the top 20. You had Ross Chastain, Corey LaJoie, Kyle Busch, Jamie McMurray, although I think this was just a one-off deal for him. Cole Custer, Brad Keselowski, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chase Briscoe, Joey Gase in the top 20 to start with, and Kurt Busch, who kind of hinted at retirement at the end of this season, which I think is kind of interesting. He has been in the sport in a long-ass time, though. I think this is his 20th year in the sport. So, in the Cup Series. So, he's had a long-ass career, to say the least. A very turbulent career as well. But obviously, this is just the first race of the season, so these point standings are going to shuffle around big time in the next few weeks. So, that'll be something to look forward to. So, add text. What kind of text? Enter and format text. Oh, cool. That's actually pretty cool. I can animate it? Learning this shit on the fly. Yeah, fade in. Oh yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So, all right, give me 1 second here. Come on, damn it. Stop doing that. You're kidding. I have to upload a file here? Select a text file. So I can't actually... Okay, so apparently I can't actually type it in. Well, that's about dumb. Alright, let's try this then. Give me 1 second here. Gotta wait for one of my text documents, or one of my text thingamajiggers to load up here. Again, I'm kind of learning this on the fly here, this text thing. I figured I would be able to click on it and then just type it in, but I guess can't really do that. So I guess I'm just gonna have to type it in on one of my documents, which I guess is a text document, and then I can upload it that way. So, god damn it, stop with that pop-up shit. Browse. Fuel. Daytona 500. New document 1. Alright, let's see if this works. Nope. Text color. And then background color. Let's see if that works. Nope. Well, shit. How do you make it into a text document? File. Save as Word document. Oh, cool. That's how. So I can change it. Okay, that's good. Okay, let's try this again. Yes. There we go. So, add text. What? Also, now I can... fuck. Wow, that's some fucking nonsense. Because initially it wasn't fucking doing it, and now it's just... Oh, Elgato, you piece of fucking dog shit. Alright, let's try this again. Alright, so text color. What would this be? fuck happened? There we go. Background color. Yeah, fuck it. Let's just go with it. Come on, put that. Add. There we go. Nice. Again, apologies, learning this shit on the fly. Alright, so. My final rating for the Daytona 500. As I said before, this was nothing but a fucking high-speed parade. There was nothing of interest to really talk about other than the stage finishes, the high number of lead changes, and Michael McDowell, winning this race. So when you add all that together, that's 1 point apiece. So my final rating for the Daytona 500 is a 3 out of 10. This race was fucking trash. A piss poor excuse to start the season. One of the most anticipated seasons in recent memory. And yet it was a total pile of clusterfuck. Because we had that giant crash on lap 15. Then you had the big crash at the end. And other than the stage finishes, Michael McDowell winning and a decent number of lead changes, there is nothing I'm going to fucking remember from this race. This race was a total fucking pile of puke. And I would not recommend going back and watching it unless you need the cure for insomnia. And that's all I got to say about that. So, that is going to do it for my first ever live review here on the Fuel. Bit rough around the edges, I realize that. But, it is what it is. This is something that I will be doing going forward, because it saves a lot of time from having me to do pre-made reviews where I have to edit it and all that other nonsense. And since News of the Week has now become Checkered Flag News, that's something that's another thing I won't have to worry about here on a live review. Of course, some of you are probably wondering where the next episode of Checkered Flag News is, because it should have happened yesterday, but with everything going on, and I was still waiting for the results from some events from WRP to finally show up, which they have. So you'll probably get Checkered Flag News probably at some point tomorrow. Probably around 9 p.m., which is usually when I upload it. Well, at least usually when I upload it before racing season began. I'll probably upload it a little bit earlier now that the Cup Series has started for 2021. But that's why you haven't seen Checkered Flag News yet from this week. But there wasn't a whole hell of a lot of news stories. But you'll see that sometime tomorrow. So that is going to do it for tonight's review of the 63rd edition of the Daytona 500. Pretty shitty start to the season. So hopefully it gets better from here. Next week they're going back to Daytona, but this time on the road course. The Clash was actually a pretty good race for once. It wasn't a fucking crash fest like it had the previous couple of years. And it featured one hell of a finish, I'll tell you that much, and some great battling throughout. A lot of people were poo-pooing on the fact that the Clash was on the road course, but it actually ended up being a pretty damn good show. And hopefully the rain from this week gets transferred to next week, so we can use them damn rain tires and see how good these drivers can do in actual rain and not just a damp racetrack. So that's going to do it for tonight's edition of The Fuel, reviewing the 63rd edition of the Daytona 500 and my 71st episode, woohoo, and my first live review here on The Fuel. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the Packer Man signing out. See you later.
Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you rats!